Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And welcome to the Team Racing YouTube channel, Dexter Williams.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. It is great to have you here. So I want to kick this all off with just having you introduce yourself to our guests, to our viewers, sorry, introduce yourself to our viewers and give us a little bit about your background.
Thank you. Thank you. And first, I really do appreciate the invitation. I used to watch you interview candidates, and now I'm a candidate myself. So I was like, oh, it's going to be really fun.
That is great.
So,
Thank you.
my name is Dexter Williams. I live in Ward 7. I'm a native Washingtonian. I graduated from Friendship Edison in 2007 and graduated from Howard University in 2012 with a bachelor's degree.
HU.
You know, you went to Howard?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. Oh, we got to talk about that.
Certainly.
I graduated with a bachelor's degree in health management, and now I'm running for at-large council member in the Democratic primary. A little bit of information about my family. You know, my mom, she's a retired DC public schools teacher, and my dad is a retired corrections officer with the DC Department of Corrections. I've been fortunate to have a really good career. I've sort of had my hands in many cookie jars, if you will. I've worked for the US Senate. I worked in multiple nonprofit organizations, the private sector. I also worked at Howard University in doing government relations work for
Okay.
2.5 years. And that's when I got my first introduction to working with the council because I was the local government relations person. And I also followed in my parents' footsteps and started working for the DC government, specifically the DC Council, where I was a policy staffer focused on criminal justice issues, returning citizen issues, transportation, and the environment. And I also managed provided oversight over some government agencies. And so I've had quite an experience, and I'm just fortunate to be in a position to be able to do this.
Awesome. Certainly. So tell me, what is it about this cycle or this year why you've chosen to throw your hat in the ring and
Yeah.
run for the at-large seat on the DC Council?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's timely, no pun intended, because yesterday my campaign and I we sent out an email to our supporters, and the message was centered around what Dr. King was talking about when he was referring to we are confronted with the fierce urgency of now.
Mm,
And I think you would agree. I think our viewers or guests, whatever you want to call them, would agree that DC is at a crossroads. You know, when it comes to the high crime in our communities. I mean, it's impacted my family personally. Just this past Thanksgiving, there was a young man. He was running away from a group of other people on Alabama Avenue, and my mom lives on 38th Street Southeast, and they were trying to kill him. And so they were shooting, guns blazing, all the way down 38th Street. And it got to a point where there were bullets flying all over the place. Bullets went into my mom's car. I'm just grateful that she wasn't in the car or that she wasn't, outside and or any of her neighbors. And I was talking to the police officer and I said, this seems to be unusual. This has never happened in Fairfax Village
mm.
before. And he's like, yeah, this is unusual. And we're at a crossroads in the city. And we have to have a real serious, thoughtful conversation about what we're going to do about these issues. We do need to address crime in terms of its root causes, but we also need to figure out, while we think about the long term, what do we do for the immediate right now when it comes to crime? And that's the same for education and housing, which are a couple of issues that I'm focused on as well.
Certainly. And I wanted to get into those issues actually,
Mhm.
education, housing, all of that.
Yeah,
Talk to me about those top issues that you'd really
yeah.
like to tackle if elected to the Council of DC.
I think one of the things that I really want to focus on is housing. I this is not a story I tell people often, but or actually ever. But I remember it was about 3 years ago. I came home. I walked up to my apartment door, and I saw a notice from the Superior Court, and my heart literally just jumped out of my chest. I was having a panic attack because I knew what it was. I was behind on my rent because I had expenses for my dental, which is, oh my God, expensive. So And I was behind on my rent, and I had this panic attack, and I had to show up for court. Luckily, at the time I was switching roles or jobs rather, and I was able to take some money out of my retirement fund to pay the balance off. But when I was in the court, I noticed that there were a lot of people in that courtroom. And a lot of them had attorneys. I had paid my rent. So I was just there to make sure that they didn't do anything else and say I didn't pay my rent and then start the eviction process. But for a lot of folks, that wasn't the case. They didn't have the resources to do that. And I started thinking, if this is how I feel, I can only imagine what they're going through. And so for me, that really stuck to me. And I think, what is it that we can do, particularly with the pandemic? What is it that we can do to prevent this long term? Not just in the short term, not just emergency funds as we have with the pandemic, but long term, because this pandemic is ever evolving. And I think we have to think about how we address these issues as we continue to deal with the pandemic.
Yes, yes, those are so important. And I know there are so many people who are affected by this, on a day-to-day basis. When does voting begin, by the way?
So I had a conversation with the Board of Elections earlier, a couple of days ago, and they haven't decided when early voting is going to start. They haven't set those dates just yet. But the primary is on June 21st of this year. And it is my understanding that the Board of Elections is going to send out mail ballots to every voter like they did in 2020, which I'm particularly happy about because in my current job, I ran the vote by mail program. And so we were trying to convince other states to implement vote by mail. So I'm glad that DC is continuing their practice.
Awesome. And to those who are watching, if you want to make sure that you are vote ready, you want to check your status, register to vote, you can go to headcount.org. Once again, that's headcount.org to check if you are vote ready. Now, Dexter, why do you stand out as the best choice for the voters?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question I get a lot. And it just makes me think about my experience in the Wilson building. Working for an at-large council member and looking at what it takes not to just be a good council member, but also to be an effective council member. And, from my perspective, it takes someone who listens to people, someone who understands the issues, someone who is connected, someone who's innovative, but also someone who has a unique background that they bring to the council in order to serve voters well. And I have that. Like I said before, I worked at the council. I did the work. I worked with communities. I introduced bills. I got things funded. And so I'm ready to just build on that work.
Awesome. And so if people watching want to support your campaign, keep up with what you're doing, follow, and, just be able to get updates, how are they able to do that?
They can go to our website at dexter4dc.com, and that's the number 4. Dexter4dc.com. It has our social media, has where we can donate. We are participating in the Fair Elections program where every donation is matched 5 to 1. And so I would encourage people to go to our website, support our movement, because it takes money to run successful campaigns. And so we would appreciate whatever you all are able to offer.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Dexter, thank you so much for being here. It was great getting to talk to you, and I wish you so much luck on your campaign.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. To our viewers, please make sure to follow Team Racine Productions on all forms of social media. And most of all, thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.